You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC series, Doctor Who. Today we're discussing the first Doctor story, The Gunfighters. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today is Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, be sure to get your very own Secrets of Doctor Who t-shirt, mug, or phone case, or more by visiting sqpn.com/merch. But first, now let's get a recap of what happens in The Gunfighters from Jimmy.
This week, the first Doctor, Stephen and Dodo, land in 1881 in Tombstone, Arizona. The Doctor has a toothache, and the famous Doc Holliday pulls it for him. But soon, there is identity confusion between the Doctor and Doc Holliday, and the TARDIS crew get caught up in the conflict between the Earps and the Clantons. In the end, the gunfight at the OK Corral happens, and it plays out kind of sort of the way it did in real life. Afterwards, the Doctor, Stephen, and Dodo leave. The end.
That is a pretty accurate recap of what happens. So what'd you think of this one, Jimmy?
I enjoy this one. It's a pure historical. There are no science fiction elements in this other than how they get to the place in the TARDIS. It's very different than the other historicals they've done. For one big difference is they have sung incidental music. So you have this song about the Last Chance Saloon, and it's being sung by a woman as incidental music. And then periodically they'll introduce new verses to reflect the developments in the plot. And it brings an interesting, lighter-hearted element, but also a kind of dramatic counterpoint to what's going on, which is, kind of what incidental music is supposed to do. It's just we're not used to having it sung for us. We're used to having incidental music. There are elements of comedy in this, some of which are a little cringe, but I can, like Stephen. Oh man, we can talk about Stephen and the Doctor's gun safety.
Yes.
And Stephen's wearing a ridiculous over-the-top cowboy costume, which even the Doctor says, "Why are you dressing like Tom Mix, who is an old cowboy movie star?" So they hang a lantern on that, but it's kind of like, in the Chris Chibnall era where you had Dan dressing up as an over-the-top pirate, where he was convinced by Yaz to dress up this way, and he didn't really know. And it's kind of the same thing with Stephen and Dodo. But fundamentally, I enjoy this. I think they do a decent job integrating the Doctor and Stephen and Dodo into these events, and, without terribly disturbing the timeline. They did violate their educational remit a little bit in this, in that it didn't really play out exactly the way in real life that they portray the gunfight at the OK Corral. Here, an example of that is some of the characters that they portray as being involved in these events were not really involved. They were real people, and they really existed, but they've kind of compactified everyone's relationships. And like, for example, Johnny Ringo, who comes in episode 3 and is present and dies at the gunfight at the OK Corral. He wasn't actually at it. He was in Tombstone in 1881, but he was out of town on the day of the gunfight, and he didn't die until the next year, until 1882. So they've played a little fast and loose. They could have hewed closer to what really happened, but fundamentally, I think it's an enjoyable episode that or story that is a nice change of pace from other Doctor Who stories of this era.
Yeah, I'm on record. I like the historicals. I wish they did more of them. I wish they still did them. I love Westerns. I'm a big fan of Westerns. So this would be right up my alley. I did not like the ballad, the way they... the ballad would have been fine, except it was relentless. I was going to mention that they keep bringing in the ballad very frequently, and I think it was too much for me. Also, at least sitting down watching it one after the other.
because I watched, it's 4 episodes. I watched 3 episodes one night and 1 episode the next morning. And so I watched them all in very close succession. And when you do that, the ballad really leaps out at you. But if you were watching this a week apart, every episode a week apart over the course of the month, I don't know that the ballad would have been that intrusive.
I guess so. The way she sang it too, like each of the incidental verses, like the interim verses between scenes, the interstitial verses, I mean, she sang it in that way that you sing the final verse of a song, you know, that sort of drawn out thing. But each time.
Now, Charlie, the barman, has got him a shroud. Yeah. And she's doing that for, like, at that moment, it's dramatic effect. But other verses, she sings more briskly and quickly that are more lighthearted. But then as we get closer and closer to the grim finale, the song changes and it becomes more grim. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of like, I was watching with my daughter and she kept laughing at my reaction every time the verse, she started singing again. So, yeah, I could tell. Now, I have to comment also, you know, they could not get American actors, so they have these terrible Western accents. Terrible. It's this weird fusion of British and, you know, old Hollywood Old West accents.
Oh, my daughter said you could tell in the A's every time they said any word with an A, you heard the British A and not the Western A, which are both kind of long, but they're very different. So yeah,
they also, they're like there are other British pronunciations, like one of them that leapt out at me immediately. It's one of the first verses in the incidental music. She's singing to an imaginary band of cowboys, and later in verses she refers to them as cowboys, but early on she refers to them as coyotes, using a 3-syllable pronunciation of coyote as opposed to the 2-syllable coyote. And the Spanish word it's based on is 3 syllables, coyote. But when it came into English, it got a 2-syllable version and a 3-syllable version. And the 3-syllable version is, today, it's more popular among younger and urban people, but among older and rural people, it's coyotes. And that's what it is to my ear. Right. And so, but in Europe, they don't have the 2-syllable version. And so you've got the British singer singing coyotes, and it's just like, whoa, that is not period accurate.
No. You know, one of the things I notice whenever I look at the TARDIS wiki for these older stories is how often they note, oh, they tried to get this famous actor, but they got this other guy instead, like that I'd never heard of, who maybe was well known at the time in British TV, but was, you know, not like they said the original choice to play Wyatt Earp was Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
In 1966 would have been a big deal. I mean, and would have been kind of awesome, actually. Also, another notable almost casting was Patrick Troughton as Johnny Ringo. Now that would have been interesting. I kind of wish we'd had that as well.
Yeah. But by the way, I found a description of Tombstone in 1881. And this is from Wikipedia, but I like its description of the town. It says, by 1881, the town boasted fancy restaurants, a bowling alley, 4 churches, an ice house, meaning a place you could go buy ice, which, of course, in southern Arizona is a very important thing to have in your town. A school, an opera house, 2 banks, 3 newspapers, an ice cream parlor, along with 110 saloons, 14 gambling halls, and numerous brothels, all situated among a number of dirty, hardscrabble mines.
It was not a little town. It sounds like a major metropolis.
Yeah, I love that. You know, you've got 4 churches, 3 newspapers, 110 saloons,
and an uncountable number of brothels. So so we start with the doctor shows up with a toothache that he got with the encounter with the celestial toy maker. He had some sweet or something.
Yeah, it did something. I mean, really, eating a single piece of sweet isn't going to give you a cavity, but something happened.
and of course goes to the worst possible time to visit a dentist. I mean, anytime before about mid 20th century is a terrible time to go to have a dental emergency. But
there's an interesting moment where, they show up and the doctor is going to be treated by Doc Holliday, who pulls his tooth.
Yeah.
And Dodo is talking to Stephen behind the doctor's back and says, I hope he's not expecting an injection.
Yeah.
But actually morphine injections began to be used in 1853, almost 30 years before this.
I wonder if in the big cities or, if back east they would have got it, but maybe not on the frontier. So this is, it's a classic trope of mistaken identity. We have the doctor who looks a lot like Doc Holliday, and the Clanton gang is in town to get revenge on Doc Holliday, who he's a friend of Wyatt Earp, who's in this case the marshal, although like you mentioned before, historically, Wyatt Earp was not the marshal. His brother was the marshal. Yeah,
although I think they portray Bat Masterson here as the ultimate marshal in charge, and Wyatt Earp is some kind of lawman, but is not fully in charge of the situation.
I think Bat is the sheriff, and which means he's the local law.
Yeah,
and the marshal is a federal lawman.
By the way, there's some interest in just an kind of low-level humor aspect of the dialogue. In this, the doctor consistently refers to Wyatt Earp as Mr. Werp.
Yes.
But that's okay, because everyone in town, to the doctor's annoyance, refers to him as Pops.
Yes. Right, except when they're mistaking for Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
But yes. So the Clantons want revenge on Doc Holliday. Doc claims he's gone straight. He's no longer, a gunfighter, because he's trying to woo Kate, who in reality was known as Big Nose Kate.
Yeah, this Kate is apparently based on Big Nose Kate. I'm not sure that she's meant to be exactly the same, but she is definitely based on Big Nose Kate.
Right. I would not describe this actress as being a big nose. She's quite lovely.
I wouldn't describe the original Big Nose Kate as having a big nose. I've seen pictures of her. She didn't look like she had a big nose to me.
That's funny. Maybe that was as in more nosy.
Could be.
Conceptually.
By the way, speaking of misconceptions like that, so whoever did the closed captioning for this did not understand one of the terms being used. So a recurring lyric in the incidental ballad is the singer is talking about how women go to the Last Chance Saloon with their high silk hose, meaning hose on your leg, HOSE. But that's not what shows up in the closed captioning. It consistently is their high silk hose, HOES. As in prostitutes? That doesn't make any sense.
Or farm implements, which
also makes no sense. Women don't use high silk farm implements. So I guess whoever did the closed captioning just didn't know what silk leg hosins are.
Some young person doesn't know history. There is so you mentioned Stephen and Dodo. As soon as they realize they're in the Wild West, they decide to run back into the TARDIS and change, because the TARDIS has an unlimited costume department, like the BBC.
And I like that fact. This is a first Doctor reference to the TARDIS's wardrobe.
Yes. And they come running out, and as you mentioned, Stephen has the most ridiculous, Hollywood, not even really Hollywood, but ridiculous stage show fringe vest, fringe
silk
shirt with embroidered stars. It's ridiculous. No one in the Old West looked like this. And he wants to start doing gunplay, and he's playing with the gun. We mentioned the gun safety by the Doctor and Stephen are not good.
It's absolutely horrible. And I mean, Stephen repeatedly pulls a gun on the Doctor for comedic effect and points it at him. And you never point a gun at anybody unless you're ready to drop the hammer.
Yes.
this is an absolute rule of gun safety. You never point a gun unless you're ready to shoot them.
Right.
And he drops the gun, and the doctor at one point is twirling a gun around his finger. And that's like, dude, that's incredibly unsafe. They both are just breaking multiple rules. In the doctor's case, they kind of allude to the fact because like this isn't the moment where he's twirling the gun, but he like has Doc Holliday has given him a gun and shoved it into his hand, and the doctor is standing between Doc Holliday and Kate, and he keeps turning between them, and he keeps pointing the gun at either Doc Holliday or Kate based on who he's turning towards, and they both keep just shoving the gun away so it doesn't point at them.
Right.
And I appreciate the humor there, but wow, does watching people violate good gun safety make me uncomfortable.
Doc Holliday in this was kind of funny. There was a point later on where Dodo pulls a gun on Doc Holliday because she wants him to take it back to Tombstone.
This was good. This is another. I think Dodo is a chronically unappreciated companion. She's great. Yeah. I mean, she takes charge in this. She is not a pushover. She stands up to Doc Holliday and Big Nose Kate. And like there's at one point she pulls a gun on Doc Holliday and demands he take her back to Tombstone. And Doc Holliday says, now he's talking to Kate, and he says, now, Kate, for the first time in my life, I've just been beaten to the draw, by a woman, by Dodo. Yeah. And she says, oh, honestly, I didn't want, she's relieved that he's going to take her back to Tombstone. And she says, oh, honestly, I didn't want to have to shoot you. and he says, and I didn't want to have to shoot you neither. And he pulls a Derringer out of his coat. And it's like, I was on top of you the whole time.
Right.
But and it's just a nice moment, but it also illustrates Dodo's agency.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be doing this. He says to her, "Are you really going to shoot me?" She's like, "Well, I'll wound you in the arm." He's like, "In that case, maybe go a little over that way because right now you're pointed straight at my forehead."
Yeah,
she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like she has the gun at him. It's a very funny scene. I did like the scenes with Doc. I thought he was funny. I mean, just like the Val Kilmer Tombstone movie. Mm-hmm. Doc is the best character in that as well. Mm-hmm. He does not say, "I'll be your Huckleberry" in this one, but but it is fun. Another fun moment is when the doctor is introducing him. When they get caught by Wyatt Earp, in the barn, and he's trying to take them for their safety to the marshal's office, the sheriff's office, and doctor's introducing himself. And he says, "I am Dr. Caligari," and Bat Masterson, "Doctor who?" Quite right.
Yeah. I noted the same exchange, and I just thought the part of the tragedy is people today are not going to know who Dr. Caligari was. But he was a silent film. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was a very famous silent movie about a sort of mad scientist who hypnotized women and stuff and was up to no good. And so to have the doctor allude to the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari by introducing himself as Dr. Caligari would have made more sense to a 1960s audience than today, when more people would have known about that movie. But today, most people don't know the history of silent film well enough to recognize the reference.
Right. Too much time has passed. Stephen he introduces as Stephen Regret, I think, because of the costume. Yeah. And Dodo is Dodo Dupont.
Which doesn't make any sense. I mean, she's got a French name anyway. Dodo Chaplet or Dodo Chaplet. Yes. I don't know why he felt the need to change her name. Maybe
to keep them out of the history books or something. But he claims that Dodo's a pianist and Stephen is a singer, so they're a traveling entertainment, which... the reason it happens that way is because usually you would think, oh, the trope is the man is the pianist, or the cliche is the man is the pianist, the woman is the singer. But there was going to be a point where the Clantons were going to require them to sing, the singer to sing. Well, it turns out that I forget the actress name, but the actress Jackie Lane. She's not a very good singer, so they needed, and Peter Purvis is a little better, so they swapped them, and so she's the pianist and he's the singer in that scene.
And it turns out that both the characters, Stephen and Dodo, can play the piano.
Right. Oh, interesting. Although I think I saw they also had like an off-screen pianist as well.
The actors, I don't think, could play the piano, but the characters, Stephen and Dodo, could.
Right. So we, the middle part of this is a lot of back and forth, mistaken identity. Stephen gets grabbed by the Clantons to use as leverage to get Doc, while they still think the doctor is Doc Holliday. Another interesting character is the saloon keeper, Charlie
the
tragic end.
Yeah. He just spills. I mean, he's the guy who initially clears up the confusion about, okay, the doctor is not Doc Holliday. Mm-hmm. He clears that up. And so he plays a useful plot function there, but he keeps dropping information to both the Clantons and the Earps.
Yeah.
He's a blabbermouth.
Yes.
He learns something. He's gonna blab it to your opponents. And he eventually, Johnny Ringo shoots him, and I'm going, I have, the incidental music singer is singing now, Charlie the barman has got him a shroud. And I'm going, yeah, Johnny Ringo finally killed Charlie the blabbermouth.
Yeah, because Charlie says after, Johnny comes into the bar and starts drinking, Charlie kind of says to himself almost, I can't wait to see Earp's face when he finds out you're in town. And Johnny says, are you going to tell him? And, mm-hmm. Charlie tries to take it back, but Johnny's not taking any chances. He's a violent criminal. And
if you're serving drinks to violent criminals, you need to know when to keep your mouth shut. And Charlie did not.
No. Speaking of criminals drinking, so when Pa Clanton shows up, they all gather in the bar, and there's this moment where they're talking about what's going on. And they're downing shots one after the other. Like they take a shot and they lower it, and it's immediately refilled by Charlie. And they're like, they take like 20 shots in the course of about 3 minutes.
That's not unknown in Tombstone, in Gunfight at the OK Corral based movies. A friend of mine was showing me the part of the Kevin Costner film Wyatt Earp. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember, this was years ago, I don't remember why he was showing me this scene, but there's a scene where Wyatt Earp first meets Doc Holliday. And this is not the Kevin Costner. I'm sorry, this is not the Val Kilmer version. This is the other one that came out a year later that didn't do nearly as well. But he goes in to, his friend brings him into this area in a saloon. And the Doc Holliday character is sitting there at a table, and he's got a drink, which is like a large tumbler of whiskey. And he's drunk almost all the whiskey, but then he refills his glass and prepares to take another drink. And when I saw it first, I was just gobsmacked because he pours like 4 or 5 inches worth of whiskey into this tumbler. And I was like, that is a massive drink. I mean, wow. So I guess they're making the point that this version of Doc Holliday really likes his whiskey, because that is a colossal amount to drink all at once.
Every version of Doc Holliday I've ever seen is like he's kind of a drunkard. Like mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the I don't know a lot about the historical reality, but I gather that must be the historical truth. Mm-hmm. Is Doc was a drinker. But
one thing that they do bring into the Doctor Who version that's accurate, they don't make a big deal out of it, but Doc Holliday had tuberculosis, and tuberculosis, or consumption as they called it back then, was a serious illness. Lots of people got it. We didn't have effective antibiotic treatments for it. And it was actually romanticized, which I find bizarre, but it was, because the way it killed you was it gradually interfered with your ability to breathe as the infection spread, and you lost energy and you got weaker and you had this kind of quiet death. And people actually romanticized this, like this would be a good way to go or something. And people, they died so young and tragically of tuberculosis, and what a romantic figure they were and stuff like that. Okay, fine. So that's just how they handle tuberculosis. But they allude, without mentioning it in the dialogue, they allude to Doc in the Gunfighters, to Doc Holliday having tuberculosis, because he occasionally prominently coughs, and they never point out he's got consumption, but they do have the actor and I don't know if it's the actor's choice, the director's choice, or the scriptwriter's choice, but they do have the Doc Holliday character coffin in a way that calls a little bit of attention to it. So if you know that in real life Doc Holliday had tuberculosis, you'll recognize what they're doing there.
Right. So other bits that I kind of noticed, at one point the doctor's in jail. He's been jailed by Earp for his protection, essentially. And there's a funny scene where the Clantons want Stephen to break out the doctor, him out of jail,
so they can kill him, thinking he's Doc Holliday.
Right. So Stephen doesn't realize this, and so Stephen shows up to the jail outside the window. Actually,
I think Stephen does realize this, because after he goes, the Clantons even talk about, I don't think he believed us, but he still wants to get the doctor out of jail.
Right.
So he goes ahead with the plan.
And so they give him a pistol to give to the doctor through the jail window so that he can use it to threaten the jailer, White Earp, to let him out. So he passes him the gun. The doctor turns. There's White Earp. He's like, I think you better take this. He gives the gun off to Earp. Like, I don't want to. I hate violence, he says. And so he hands him the gun. I thought that was funny.
The Wyatt Earp character in this is kind of interesting. There's some interesting religious things in the dialogue connected with Wyatt Earp. Like, he'll greet people as sinners. He'll just walk into the bar and say, howdy, sinners, and he'll make references to going to church meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where at one point Earp and Stephen are together, and they've just been in danger. They could have been shot. And they avoid that. And then after that, Wyatt Earp says, "For what we did not receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful." And Stephen says, "Amen."
Right.
And that's of course a variant of the British prayer at mealtime: "For what we are about to receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful."
Right.
So it's just here for what we did not receive.
Yeah. There's a. And then that's after one of the Clanton gang is killed. And so he says, shall we take this sinner to the abode of the unrighteous? This is to Phineas Clanton. I think Phineas has been killed when they were trying to lynch Stephen to get at Doc. So eventually, at one point to the doctor, I gotta keep him straight. The doctor is in the jail and he's looking at this wanted poster. It turns out it's Johnny Ringo, but it's a photograph of Johnny. Like 1881, I don't think wanted posters generally had photographs of the wanted person on them, but they
illustrations, but not photos.
Yeah, they wanted us to be able to recognize Johnny when he shows up. I do note Doc Holliday's wanted poster. The reward at the end of the story was twice what it was for Johnny Ringo. So Doc is much more notorious. But eventually Earp deputizes the doctor. So he's got a badge for a bit, although he eventually gives that up.
And then he gets deputized by Bat Masterson. So he ends up getting deputized twice.
That's right. There's a younger brother, Earp Warren, who gets left alone in the jail to watch the that's right. Phineas Clanton was in jail. He wasn't dead. He was put in the jail cell with a stutter, which was interesting. They didn't really make anything of it, but he had the character to stutter.
I didn't look it up, but I assume that's another real life detail.
Yeah, it must be. But he gets shot and killed in the breakout of Phineas. And that's what sets, in this story, Earp bent on revenge at the OK Corral against the Clantons. Although in real life, Warren Earp was not even in Tombstone at the time. So that wasn't the motivation. But in this story, that becomes, and Warren is like, forget justice. Like the law. I want revenge. And that's where Bat has to step back and say, I can't. I'm a lawman. I can't. And that's why he wasn't at the OK Corral. By
the way, after the gunfight, so Wyatt Earp was one of the people who was not wounded. There were others who were wounded and survived, and then there were the ones who got killed, which is primarily on the side of the Clantons. Well, after the way Arizona law worked at the time, and Arizona was not yet a state, it was a territory, but the way the law worked at the time, citizens could basically require the law enforcement authorities to investigate particular situations. You could make a citizen's complaint and they had to take it seriously. And after the gunfight, Wyatt Earp and his fellow survivors of their side were actually put on trial for murder. And they got off. They weren't convicted of murder, but they were tried for it. And I think that's an interesting aspect of the gunfight at the OK Corral that not a lot of folks realize.
So in the actual fight, Ringo dies pretty quickly at Holliday's hand. After all that buildup, and they had a beef over Kate. I think Kate had gone with Doc, and that's why Ringo was mad. But Dodo nearly gets herself killed, and Holliday killed in that. So what does she do?
She rushes up to warn Doc Holliday, and that lets Johnny Ringo get the drop on him.
Right. And so he only just barely,
and this is just this one I thought was clumsier, but they wanted the TARDIS crew involved in the gunfight itself. And so this was a way to kind of shoehorn him in there, even though it doesn't make sense from would a character really do this perspective.
Right. And that's, once the fighting is done, things wrap up pretty quickly afterwards. They're back in the stable where the TARDIS has been.
Also, the gunfight itself is definitely not realistic to real life. You have the Clantons there waiting for the Earps, and they're not all actually Earps, but they're called the Earps because 2 of the 4 members were Earps.
Yeah.
So you have the Earps walking up to the Clantons at the corral, and the Clantons just start blazing away with their guns. And the way it's depicted here, the Earps just keep calmly walking forward.
Terrible shots, those Clantons.
What? I mean, yeah. And it's like they're not ducking away to take cover or anything. They're just keep calmly walking forward. Also, in real life, the gunfight lasted less than 30 seconds. And there were 30 shots fired, so about a shot a second for less than 30 seconds. Here it goes on for minutes, so they've dramatically stretched it out.
Yeah, typical cinematic representation. Yeah. There's a lot of this is a Star Trek episode which has a representation of the OK Corral on an alien planet, of course. Yeah, we'll get to that one eventually on that show, but that's. And then they take off, and we do get this bit at the end where we're setting up the next story, the Savages. Yeah, they go to another planet, and so now we're in the close down period for the William Hartnell era. So this is the Gunfighters is the last regular William Hartnell story before they start introducing structural changes to get us ready for the Patrick Troughton era. So here we have the Doctor and his 2 companions. No one comes, no one departs. It's a standard story in that respect. And I kind of think they went out on a high note because I think this is fun. It's not, if you don't take it too seriously, it's fun. But then next episode, the Savages, that Stephen leaves. The episode after, or the story after that, the War Machines, that's when Dodo leaves and Ben and Polly come. Yep. And then the episode after that, the 10th Planet, is where William Hartnell leaves and Patrick Troughton comes in. Right. In fact, the Gunfighters, I was reading during the filming of that, is when Peter Purves and Jackie Lane learned that they would be leaving the show. Yeah. So they didn't get a whole lot of lead time on that. It is too bad. I like Steven. He's been good. And you're right. Dodo didn't get enough time. I think she's been a fine companion. Yeah, her reputation. Now, Steven has good reputation, and he was a companion for a longer period. He's been with us since the end of the Ian and Barbara era. But Dodo is not here for very long, and I think her nickname Dodo, I mean her character's real name is Dorothea, which also is kind of Ace's real name.
but because she's got the nickname Dodo instead of Ace, I think people have thought that Dodo is not an intelligent person. And when you actually watch the episodes featuring Dodo, she is sharp as a tack. She takes agency. She's smarter than Steven sometimes.
Yeah.
And there her nickname is just a nickname. It is not a character trait. She is an awesome companion. I really like Dodo. She's spunky. Has a sense of humor. She's cheerful, and she takes agency and takes charge of things.
Right. How quickly after the 10th planet do we lose Ben and Polly?
Not immediately. It's fairly quick. It's within the first season. They stay until the Faceless Ones, and that's their exit story. Right.
Because they pick up
Jamie and the Highlanders.
Jamie. Yeah, and that's the second story after the 10th planet. So and then Underwater Menace and the Moon Base, those are Ben and Polly, and then Macroterra. Yeah, so it's a handful of episodes. Okay, I thought they left fairly early, but no, it's a bit before they go. No, they kind of go through companions quickly in those early years, which is too bad because you kind of get attached to them. Jamie stuck around longer than most.
Yes.
Which was good.
In fact, I believe Jamie is still the longest serving companion of anybody.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I would have thought Sarah Jane would have been up there because she's so iconic, but maybe not.
No, she's there for the last season of John Pertwee and the first season or two of Tom Baker.
Yeah. Okay.
She made a big impact and became for a while the most famous companion, and she arguably still is.
Yeah.
But Jamie was there longer because he came in Patrick Troughton's second episode and left in his last episode, so he was basically there for the entire Patrick Troughton era.
Right. Yeah, they are a matched pair. All right. So that's it for the Gunfighters. Any other notes on this one, Jimmy?
Nope.
All right. Then now we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Doctor Who, including Emily R., Betsy S., Jeff B., Catherine L., and Eric D. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we'd love to know what you thought of the Gunfighters. Let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com, the Secrets of Doctor Who Facebook page, send an email to drwho@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord, or watch The Secrets of Doctor Who on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia, where you can subscribe and leave a comment. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the 10th Doctor Big Finish story, Ghosts. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Doctor Who.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who on StarQuest. And remember, ain't it wonderful, honey, what a man will do for you, what he truly believes in?